The rain had not stopped for 3 days. Dark clouds floated above the human military academy, turning the sky into a gray wall. Cadet Ryan walked alone across the training field, his boots sinking in the wet mud. The other cadets were sleeping in the dorms, but Ryan could not rest. He was the weakest in his class, the one everyone ignored. Every day, he tried harder, yet his instructors never looked at him with pride. They only said, "You need more control, cadet. You're not ready for a creature bond." Those words stayed in his head, heavy like metal. As he walked past the creature cages, Ryan heard low growls. Huge shapes moved behind the electric bars. Some had scales, others had wings, and one had a single glowing eye. These were the beasts trained to fight beside humans. But no beast had ever chosen Ryan. He stopped beside an empty cage, one that looked older than the others. Its metal bars were rusted, half buried in dirt. A broken sign read Unit 0, "Do not enter." Something about it made Ryan curious. He knelt down and brushed the mud away. His hand touched something hard and cold beneath the soil. It was a small silver whistle, dull from age but shining faintly under the rain. He picked it up and turned it in his palm. It felt warm. Strange warmth, like it was alive. He blew softly to clean the dirt off it, but before he could look closer, a voice shouted from behind him. "Cadet Ryan! Drop that!" Instructor Vorn walked quickly toward him. His dark uniform was soaked, and his face was pale with anger, or was it fear? "Do you know what that is?" Vorn barked. Ryan shook his head. "It's just a whistle, sir." Vorn's eyes narrowed. "That is not just a whistle. That whistle belonged to the first Beastmaster, before the war, before this academy even existed. It's forbidden." Ryan frowned. "Why is it forbidden?" Vorn looked around as if the shadows were listening. "Because the last time someone used it, every creature on this planet broke free. Thousands died. That whistle does not call one beast, it calls all of them." Ryan froze. He wanted to drop the whistle, but his fingers would not let go. Vorn stepped closer. "Give it to me, cadet." For a moment, Ryan thought about obeying. But then he felt a strange pull from the whistle, a whisper in his mind that said, "Do not fear. You were chosen." His heart pounded. He slowly placed the whistle in his pocket. "Yes, sir," he said quickly. Vorn looked at him suspiciously, but said nothing more. "You are dismissed," the instructor said at last. "And cadet, if you value your life, forget you ever found it." That night, Ryan lay in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The sound of rain mixed with the distant growls of sleeping beasts. His roommate snored quietly, unaware that he was still awake. He pulled the whistle out of his pocket and stared at it in the dim light. It seemed brighter now, glowing faintly blue. "The first Beastmaster," he whispered. "Is that real?" His mind was full of questions. Why would such a thing be hidden beneath the academy grounds? Who had left it there? And why did he feel like it belonged to him? When he closed his eyes, strange images flashed in his mind: tall mountains, burning skies, giant creatures kneeling before a human figure holding the same whistle. The images felt real, like memories he had forgotten. Ryan opened his eyes, gasping. The whistle was still warm in his hand. He heard a low sound from outside the dorm, something moving, something breathing heavily. The beasts. He sat up and looked out through the window. The cages were far in the distance, but he could see faint glowing eyes in the dark. The creatures were restless, shifting and turning toward the dorm building. Ryan's pulse quickened. He looked down at the whistle again. It was glowing brighter now, responding to something. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. He stood up quietly, slipped on his boots, and walked outside into the cold rain. Every step felt heavy, like the air around him was alive. He stopped in the middle of the training ground and raised the whistle to his lips. Just one time, he whispered to himself. Just one sound. He blew gently. No sound came out. The whistle made no noise, but the world reacted. The ground began to tremble. The wind grew stronger. The cages far away began to shake as the creatures inside roared and slammed against the bars. Lightning cracked across the sky. Ryan dropped the whistle in shock, but it kept glowing on the ground, pulsing with light. The creatures were roaring in unison now, their voices echoing through the entire academy. The dorm lights turned on, alarms began to ring, and footsteps echoed as soldiers ran out. Ryan stood frozen, eyes wide, the rain washing over him. Then he heard footsteps behind him again. Instructor Vorn was running toward him, shouting over the thunder, "Ryan! What did you do?" Ryan's voice was trembling. I just blew the whistle." Vorn's eyes were full of fear. He grabbed Ryan's shoulder. "You don't understand, it's awake now." From the distance came a deep, powerful roar that silenced everything else. The cages split open like paper. Massive shapes moved through the darkness, eyes glowing red and gold. Every beast turned its head toward Ryan, and bowed. The thunder stopped. Even the wind went still. Instructor Vorn whispered, voice shaking, "Impossible, they're answering him." Ryan looked around, terrified yet amazed. The beasts stood like an army, waiting for his next move. The whistle glowed brighter in his hand. In that moment, Ryan knew his life at the academy would never be the same again. Something ancient had returned, and it had chosen him. The morning after the storm was silent, too silent. The sky over the academy was pale and strange, as if the world was holding its breath. The cages that once held hundreds of beasts now stood empty. Bent metal, broken wires, and deep claw marks covered the ground. No one dared to speak of what happened that night. The instructors claimed it was a system malfunction, but everyone knew that wasn't true. Only one person knew what had really happened, Cadet Ryan. He sat alone in the observation room, staring through the glass at the ruined training field. His hands were still shaking, though he tried to hide it. The memory of the creatures bowing before him replayed in his mind again and again. The way their glowing eyes had focused only on him, it didn't feel like control. It felt like recognition. He could still hear their voices in his head, deep and ancient, whispering words he could barely understand. "You are the echo, you are the bond." Those words made no sense, but they filled him with strange warmth and fear at the same time. The door slid open behind him. Instructor Vorn entered, his face tired and pale. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Cadet," he said, voice heavy, "you have no idea what you've done." Ryan didn't turn around. "They bowed to me," he whispered. "Why would they do that?" Vorn stood beside him, watching the field. "Because the whistle doesn't command, it connects. You didn't just call them, you awakened something old inside them. The last person who used it vanished, and the beasts nearly destroyed this world." Ryan frowned. "Then why didn't they attack me?" Vorn looked at him seriously. "Maybe because you're the only one they trust now." The room was quiet for a moment. Outside, distant sirens echoed across the academy walls. Soldiers were rounding up the remaining beasts, trying to herd them back into containment. But something strange was happening. No matter what the soldiers did, the creatures wouldn't move unless Ryan looked at them. When he stood by the window, the beasts calmed down. When he turned away, they roared again. Vorn noticed it too. "They're responding to you," he said. "Even without the whistle." Ryan shook his head. "That's impossible." But inside, he knew it wasn't. He could feel the creatures, every heartbeat, every breath. It was like hundreds of minds were connected to his. Some were calm, others afraid, but all of them were waiting for him. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the academy halls. "Containment breach in Sector 3, a voice shouted over the intercom. Vorn swore under his breath. "Stay here, Cadet." He rushed out, but Ryan hesitated only for a moment before following. He couldn't stay still. Something inside him told him he had to see what was happening. The hallways were filled with chaos, cadets running, lights flashing red, doors sealing shut. Ryan pushed through the crowd until he reached the open training yard. What he saw made him freeze. A giant creature, half wolf, half dragon, was standing over a destroyed security gate. Its eyes were golden and furious, but when they met Ryan's, the beast suddenly stopped moving. The soldiers around it aimed their rifles, but none fired. The creature tilted its head and then lowered it, letting out a low rumble. The soldiers looked confused. "Why did it stop?" one of them whispered. Vorn appeared beside Ryan, breathing hard. "It's responding to you again. Do something, calm it down." Ryan's heart raced. "I don't know how." Vorn shouted, "Then remember what you did last night." Ryan looked down at his pocket where the whistle was hidden. He hesitated, then took it out. The silver surface was glowing faintly again. "Please," he whispered, not sure if he was talking to himself or the beast. "I don't want to hurt you." He raised the whistle and blew. Again, no sound came out, but the air vibrated. The creature's eyes softened. It lowered its massive body and bowed, just like the others had. The soldiers slowly lowered their weapons. "What the hell?" one of them muttered. Then something incredible happened. Other beasts began to appear from the forest outside the walls. Dozens of them, then hundreds, walking calmly toward the field. They didn't attack, didn't roar. They simply surrounded Ryan, forming a silent circle. Their eyes glowed softly in the misty air. Vorn stepped back, speechless. "This shouldn't be possible," he whispered. Ryan could feel the creature's thoughts, their emotions blending with his own. They weren't angry, they were calling. He understood then that they had been waiting for someone who could hear them, not just command them. He looked at Vorn. "They're not wild," he said softly. "They're scared. Something, is coming." Before Vorn could reply, a voice crackled through his earpiece. "Instructor, report. The command center wants answers, right now." Vorn pressed his comm. "Tell them to hold their fire," he said quickly. "The cadet has the situation under control." There was silence, then disbelief. "The cadet? Are you insane? He's the reason this happened." The voice shouted, but Vorn ignored it. He turned to Ryan. "Listen to me. You've crossed a line that can't be undone. From this moment, the higher command will see you as a weapon, or a threat. You need to be ready." Ryan nodded slowly. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Meaning doesn't matter," Vorn said grimly. "You woke them. And now, everyone will want to know why." The creatures began to move again, forming ranks like soldiers awaiting orders. Their eyes shone brighter, as if they understood human speech. Ryan felt a sudden wave of emotion, loyalty, strength, and something else, a warning. He turned toward the forest just as a deep, distant rumble shook the ground. Trees snapped, and the horizon glowed with strange light. The beasts all turned in the same direction, growling low. Ryan's pulse quickened. "What is that?" Vorn looked at the horizon, fear flickering in his eyes. "That," he said quietly, "is the reason the whistle was forbidden." Ryan looked down at the glowing whistle in his hand. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and he realized this was only the beginning. The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Dust fell from the training towers, and the sky above the academy turned dark as if a storm was forming out of nowhere. Instructor Vorn grabbed Ryan by the shoulder and pulled him toward the command shelter. "Move, cadet. Whatever you called is still coming." Ryan stumbled after him, clutching the whistle in his hand. The beasts outside were growling, restless, forming a protective circle around the field. They weren't attacking, but they were ready. Every eye was turned toward the forest where the strange rumble had begun. Vorn led Ryan inside the control room where screens flickered with red warnings. "Multiple energy signals approaching from the east perimeter," said a panicked operator. "We've never seen readings like this." Vorn looked at Ryan. "Did the whistle do this?" Ryan shook his head. "I didn't mean to. I just tried to calm the beasts." Vorn's voice lowered, filled with anger and fear. You don't understand. That whistle doesn't calm, it awakens. Every creature born in this world carries a bond memory. It connects them to the first beast master. You've triggered it. Ryan stared at him. Then who was the first beast master? Vorn's expression hardened. He was human. Like you. A soldier who believed humans and beasts could fight as one. But he went too far. He tried to command them all at once. The beasts turned on everything, cities, armies, even their masters. The world almost ended. Ryan felt cold inside. And the whistle? Vorn nodded grimly. It was his key, the instrument that made the bond possible. When he vanished, the beasts fell into silence. The academy was built to steady them, to make sure it never happened again. Ryan gripped the whistle tighter. Then why did it respond to me? Vorn studied him for a long moment. Because maybe you carry what he carried. The same genetic bond. Or maybe the whistle just chose you. Either way, it means trouble. Before Ryan could answer, the alarms blared again. The control room shook as something massive struck the outer walls. The lights flickered. Contact. Unknown entity breaching Sector 4, shouted a voice from the speakers. Vorn looked at the screen. A giant shadow moved across the monitor, larger than any creature on record. The beasts outside began roaring in unison, not in rage but in warning. Ryan could feel their fear through the strange connection in his mind. He closed his eyes and sensed it clearly, the presence of something ancient, something not like the other beasts. It's not one of them, Ryan whispered. It's something else. Vorn turned sharply. How do you know that? I can feel them, Ryan said quietly. All of them. They're scared. Whatever's out there, it's older than them. The room fell silent. Then, with a deep metallic groan, the outer gate collapsed. The monitors showed dust and debris rising, and through the smoke came a shape, massive claws, glowing white eyes, a body covered in dark scales like armor. It wasn't attacking, it was searching. The beast turned its head, as if sniffing the air, then started walking toward the academy's main square. Every other creature in the field bowed its head low as it passed. It's one of the alphas, Vorn muttered in disbelief. We thought they were extinct. Ryan swallowed hard. Why is it here? It's looking for you, Vorn said. You're the bondholder now. It senses the whistle. Ryan looked down at the silver whistle in his hand. It was glowing again, brighter than ever. He could feel its heartbeat matching his own. I can't let it hurt anyone, Ryan said. I have to stop it. Vorn grabbed his arm. You can't control something like that. You don't even understand your own power yet. Ryan met his eyes. Maybe not. But the beasts listen to me now. I have to try. Before Vorn could argue, Ryan ran out of the shelter. The cold air hit him hard as he stepped into the open courtyard. The giant alpha stood there, towering above the buildings. Its breath came out in heavy clouds of smoke, and its golden eyes locked onto Ryan immediately. The other creatures backed away, leaving a clear path between the two. Ryan's legs trembled, but he forced himself forward. He raised the whistle slowly. You came for this, didn't you? He said softly. The alpha tilted its head, then lowered itself slightly, letting out a deep growl that shook the ground. Ryan felt the sound in his bones. He blew the whistle. Again, there was no sound, but the light spread through the air like ripples in water. The alpha froze. Its eyes flashed brighter. Then Ryan saw something, images in his mind, memories not his own. The first Beastmaster standing before a younger version of this same creature, holding the whistle, commanding armies of beasts. Then fire, chaos, betrayal. The bond breaking. The alpha roaring in pain. The memory vanished, leaving Ryan gasping. The alpha lowered its head, staring at him closely. Ryan whispered, You remember him, don't you? The creature's breath was hot and heavy. It blinked slowly, as if recognizing him. Then, to Vorn's amazement, the Alpha kneeled. The other beasts roared in response, shaking the air. Ryan lowered the whistle, his heart racing. For a moment, everything felt calm. But then, a voice echoed from the command tower. "All units, target the Alpha. Fire at will." Ryan shouted, "No! Stop," but it was too late. Explosions lit the sky. The Alpha roared in fury, swinging its tail and destroying the nearest tower. The ground cracked, and flames spread through the courtyard. The beasts screamed, chaos returning. Vorn ran out, pulling Ryan away from falling debris. "This is exactly why that whistle was banned," he shouted. Ryan looked around in horror. The creatures weren't just fighting the soldiers, they were defending him. He could feel their pain and rage as bullets struck them. "They're protecting me," he said, voice trembling. Vorn pulled him behind a wall. "Then control them before they destroy everything." Ryan looked at the whistle again, glowing red now instead of blue. He took a deep breath, raised it to his lips, and blew. The world seemed to stop. The light exploded outward, washing over the field like a wave. Every creature froze. The Alpha stopped mid-roar. Then, slowly, all of them bowed their heads. The smoke cleared. The soldiers stared in silence. Ryan stood in the center, holding the whistle, eyes glowing faintly with the same strange light. Vorn looked at him, half terrified, half amazed. "You didn't control them," he said quietly. "They chose to listen." Ryan looked back at him. "Then maybe this power wasn't meant to be feared." Vorn shook his head. "Or maybe it's just beginning to show what it really is." The Alpha raised its head, eyes locked on Ryan again, and spoke in a low, rumbling voice that only he could hear. "The bond has returned." Smoke still hung over the academy grounds, and the air smelled of ash and rain. The once mighty training field now looked like a battlefield. Burned soil, broken machines, and fallen beasts lay scattered everywhere. Ryan stood in the middle, his uniform torn and dirty, the whistle still glowing faintly in his hand. Around him, the creatures were silent. Some had wounds, some were trembling, but none had left his side. The Alpha, the massive dark-scaled creature, stood a few steps away, breathing slowly, watching him with golden eyes that seemed to see through his soul. Instructor Vorn walked toward him, limping from debris burns. His face showed disbelief and fear mixed with something else, respect. "You stopped them," he said quietly. "You actually made them stop." Ryan didn't respond at first. His mind was full of noise, voices whispering from all directions. It was the beasts. He could hear them, not with his ears, but inside his head. They weren't speaking words, but emotions. Fear. Loyalty. Pain. "They're talking," Ryan said softly. Vorn frowned. "What do you mean?" "Not with words," Ryan whispered, closing his eyes. "They're showing me things. They're hurt, scared. They think I can protect them." Vorn's eyes widened. "A telepathic bond? That's impossible. Even the first Beastmaster couldn't maintain a link with this many at once." Ryan looked at him, sweat dripping down his face. "It's not me controlling them. It's connection. Like they're part of me." Vorn shook his head. "That kind of link can destroy your mind. You need to sever it before it consumes you." But Ryan wasn't listening. He took a step forward, and the Alpha lowered its head, letting out a soft growl. Ryan reached out a trembling hand and touched its snout. The moment he did, his vision changed. He saw flashes of ancient images, mountains burning, skies filled with beasts, a man holding the same whistle leading them into war. The man turned, and Ryan gasped. The man's face was almost identical to his own. The vision ended, leaving him breathless. He stumbled back, holding his head. Vorn grabbed his arm. "What did you see?" "The first Beastmaster," Ryan said weakly. "He looked like me." Vorn went silent. For a long moment, only the sound of wind moved through the ruins. Then Vorn spoke again, voice low and uneasy. Maybe that's why the whistle responded. Maybe you carry his bloodline. Ryan shook his head. That can't be true. But deep down, something told him it was. He could feel a memory inside him that wasn't his, a memory of power and loneliness. The beasts began to move again, slowly gathering around him. Even the injured ones dragged themselves closer. It wasn't aggression, it was protection. Vorn watched with wide eyes. They're guarding you, he said. They see you as their alpha now. Ryan looked around, amazed. No, he said softly. They're not guarding me. They're guarding the bond. Before Vorn could answer, a loud hum filled the air. Hovercraft engines roared above them. The Academy's upper command had arrived. Soldiers in dark armor surrounded the area, weapons glowing. A voice echoed from a speaker, cold and commanding. Cadet Ryan of the Human Academy, drop the artifact and surrender immediately. You are under arrest for violation of planetary law. Vorn clenched his fists. Idiots, he muttered. They'll make it worse. Ryan stepped forward. If I surrender, will they leave the beasts alone? Vorn looked at him sharply. You can't trust them. They want that whistle, not peace. The beasts began growling, sensing the danger. Ryan raised a hand. Easy, he whispered. His calm spread through them like a wave. The growls faded. The soldiers hesitated, unsure what to do. Then one of them fired. The shot hit a small beast near Ryan, and it screamed in pain. The others reacted instantly, roaring and charging toward the soldiers. Chaos erupted again. Vorn shouted orders, trying to stop the fight, but it was useless. Ryan could feel the rage of the creatures flooding his mind. His vision blurred. The link between him and the beasts grew stronger, burning through his thoughts like fire. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Stop, he shouted. Please, stop. The Alpha turned toward him and let out a thunderous roar. The beasts froze in place. Ryan looked up, eyes glowing faintly blue now. His voice was calm but filled with power. No more fighting. The beasts slowly backed away, forming a wall between the soldiers and Ryan. The air grew still again. The commander of the soldiers stepped forward, helmet shining under the dim light. This ends now, he said coldly. Hand over the whistle. Ryan looked at him, then at the wounded creature beside him. If I give it to you, what will you do with them? Contain them. Study them. They are dangerous, the commander replied. Ryan shook his head. No. They're not dangerous. They're alive. They just needed someone to listen. The commander raised his weapon. Enough. You don't give the orders here. Before he could fire, the Alpha moved faster than anyone could see. With one swing of its tail, it sent the commander flying backward. The soldiers panicked. Open fire, they shouted. Lasers cut through the air. Ryan's eyes glowed brighter as he raised the whistle and blew. The light burst out again, stronger than ever before, forming a shield of energy around the beasts. The lasers bounced harmlessly away. The soldiers fell back, terrified. Vorn ran to Ryan's side. You can't hold this connection forever. Ryan's voice was strained. I'm not holding it, they are. The Alpha roared again, and the beasts began to retreat, moving toward the forest. Ryan turned to Vorn. We have to go. If they stay here, the military will destroy them. Vorn hesitated, then nodded. There's an old escape tunnel under the east wall. We can use it. Ryan glanced back at the burning academy one last time. I didn't want this, he said quietly. Vorn put a hand on his shoulder. Power never asks what we want. It only asks what we're willing to do. Ryan looked at the whistle glowing in his palm. Then I'll do what he couldn't. Together, with the beasts following like silent shadows, they disappeared into the forest. As they vanished into the darkness, the Alpha looked back once, eyes blazing with golden light. Somewhere deep within the Academy ruins, a voice on the comm said, "The cadet has escaped," and every creature followed him. The forest was silent except for the soft crunch of footsteps and the low breathing of the beasts moving through the shadows. Moonlight spilled through the tall trees, turning everything silver and ghostly. Ryan walked in the middle of the group, the glowing whistle clutched in his hand. Instructor Vorn moved beside him, checking his tracker again and again to make sure they weren't being followed. The beasts followed silently, their eyes glimmering in the dark like tiny stars. "We can't keep moving like this," Vorn whispered. "The command drones will find us by sunrise." Ryan looked ahead. "Then where do we go?" Vorn hesitated, then lowered his voice. "There's one place the military never goes. The old archives below Sector 12. It's where they keep the original research, the truth about the Beastmasters." Ryan frowned. "You mean, where this whistle came from?" Vorn nodded. "And maybe who you really are." They moved until the trees grew thinner and the smell of metal filled the air. Hidden between two cliffs was an abandoned transport tunnel covered in vines. Rusted lights flickered faintly along the walls. Vorn led the way, pressing a code into an old security pad. Sparks flew, then the heavy door slid open with a slow metallic groan. Inside was darkness and dust. The beasts stayed near the entrance, too large to fit through the narrow hallways, but the Alpha crouched nearby, watching Ryan like a silent guardian. "Stay close," Vorn said as they descended into the tunnel. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The air smelled of oil and time. Ryan's footsteps echoed off the stone floors. After what felt like hours, they reached a massive underground chamber filled with flickering monitors and broken data pods. A giant emblem marked the wall, an old symbol of the Human Alliance, long before the Academy existed. Vorn turned on a generator, and the screens blinked to life one by one, showing old video logs and classified files. "Welcome to the archives," Vorn said quietly. "Everything the Academy never wanted you to see." Ryan stepped closer to the main terminal. "What am I looking for?" "Search the codename, Project Beastbond," Vorn said. Ryan typed the words. The screen flashed, then opened dozens of files. Old reports, audio notes, and pictures appeared. One image froze him completely. It was a photo of a man holding the same whistle, surrounded by beasts. The caption read, "Commander Eric Salas, First Beastmaster." The man's face looked exactly like Ryan's. "That's him," Ryan whispered. "That's the man I saw in my vision." Vorn came closer, reading over his shoulder. Eric Salas disappeared over 200 years ago during the Great Rebellion. They said he tried to merge his consciousness with the beasts to stop the war. His body was never found. Ryan felt his chest tighten. "So I'm his descendant?" "Maybe," Vorn said slowly. "Or maybe something more. Look here." He pointed at another file titled Genetic Reconstruction Protocol. Ryan opened it. A report appeared on screen. Subject 9, human clone created using partial DNA of Commander Salas. Purpose, reactivate the Beastbond gene. Result, unstable psychic response. Ryan read the lines in silence, his hands trembling. Subject 9, that's me. Vorn's face hardened. The Academy must have known. They didn't train you by chance. They were waiting to see if the gene would awaken again. Ryan stepped back, shaking his head. "So I was made for this? Just an experiment?" "No," Vorn said firmly. "Maybe that's how they started it, but what you did, you bonded with them without control, without violence, that wasn't in their plan. That was human." Ryan looked at the whistle glowing softly in his hand. "This thing, it doesn't feel like a weapon. It feels alive." He placed it on the table, and the screens flickered. A voice, distorted by age, echoed from the speakers. "If you're hearing this," it said, "then the bond has chosen again." The voice was calm, deep, and familiar. It was Eric Salas. We created the link to protect, not to rule. But humans feared what they didn't understand. They tried to erase it. The beasts remember the truth. The bond isn't power, it's trust. The recording faded into static. Ryan stood frozen. His reflection glowed on the screen, his face overlapping with the image of the first Beastmaster. Vorn looked at him carefully. Now you know why the whistle found you. You're not just connected by blood. You're connected by purpose. Before Ryan could answer, the terminal lights flickered again, but this time not from the generator. Red warning lights filled the room. Unauthorized access detected, a robotic voice said. Security units en route. Vorn swore under his breath. They found us. Ryan grabbed the whistle and ran toward the exit. How? There's no signal down here. The whistle, Vorn said. It's a beacon, they've been tracking it. The ground began to shake as explosions echoed from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. We have to get out before they seal the tunnels. Ryan shouted. They sprinted through the dark corridors, the air thick with smoke. Behind them, mechanical footsteps grew louder, military drones with glowing red eyes. They fired beams of energy down the tunnel, blasting the walls. Ryan turned, raising the whistle. The beasts outside roared in response. A burst of light filled the tunnel, and the drones froze mid-attack. Their systems overloaded, sparks flying from their armor. You're learning fast, Vorn said, impressed. I'm not learning, Ryan said through heavy breaths. They're helping me. As they reached the surface, the Alpha lowered its head, allowing Ryan and Vorn to climb onto its back. More drones appeared in the trees, their red sensors scanning. Ryan blew the whistle again, and a wave of soundless energy spread outward. The beasts charged forward like a storm, tearing through the machines. Metal shattered, sparks flew, and the forest burned with light. Where now? Vorn shouted over the chaos. Ryan looked toward the horizon, where the twin moons hung low in the sky. We find a place they can't reach us, he said. A place where we can finish what he started. Vorn nodded, gripping the Alpha scales tightly. Then we go beyond the border. But once we cross, there's no coming back. Ryan glanced at the glowing whistle, feeling its pulse match his heartbeat. I was never meant to stay behind, he said quietly. As the beasts disappeared into the night, the destroyed drones sent one final transmission back to the command center, a clear image of Ryan, standing on the Alpha's back, surrounded by creatures of every kind. The file name was simple, the new Beastmaster. The dawn was breaking when Ryan and Instructor Vorn crossed the border into the wastelands. The sky turned from deep blue to pale gold, and the air shimmered with strange heat. Behind them, smoke still rose from the destroyed forest where the battle had taken place. The beasts moved silently, their bodies tense and their eyes alert. None of them trusted this new land. The wastelands were forbidden not just by law but by fear. Rumor said the air itself could twist a man's mind, and that ancient machines slept beneath the sand, waiting for intruders. Ryan could feel the whistle pulsing in his pocket like a heartbeat, guiding him somewhere he did not yet understand. We can rest for a moment, Vorn said, stopping beside a broken pillar half buried in dust. The wind howled, carrying faint metallic echoes. Ryan looked around, scanning the endless expanse of ruined metal and stone. What was this place? He asked. Vorn took a long breath. This used to be the first city built after the Great War. They called it Haven. But it didn't last. When the Beastmasters rebelled, the Alliance turned this place into a testing ground for forbidden weapons. Everything died after that. Ryan knelt and brushed his hand against the cracked ground. Beneath the dirt, he saw fragments of glass and strange markings glowing faintly. It's not dead, he said quietly. Something still breathes here. Before Vorn could reply, the Alpha growled low and turned its head toward the horizon. Ryan followed its gaze. Black dots were moving fast through the sky, the drones. They found us again, Vorn said, his voice sharp. Ryan clenched his jaw. How? We destroyed their trackers. Vaughn pulled out a small device and cursed. They must be tracking the whistle's energy signature. It's too powerful to hide. Ryan pulled the whistle out and stared at it. Then I'll destroy it. No, Vaughn said quickly. That thing is the only reason we're still alive. We just need to get far enough that their signal weakens. Ryan hesitated, then nodded. Then we move. The beasts formed a tight formation around them as they ran across the broken plains. The drones grew closer, red lights flashing, their engines whining through the hot air. Laser fire cut through the ground, throwing sand and metal shards into the air. Ryan stumbled, but the Alpha caught him with its tail and lifted him onto its back. Vaughn climbed behind him, firing his blaster at the nearest drones. We won't make it far like this, he shouted. Ryan gripped the whistle tightly. Then we'll make our stand. He lifted it to his lips and blew. The sound was not heard, it was felt. A deep vibration passed through the ground. The beasts stopped running, turning their heads as if listening to something far away. The air shimmered again, and suddenly the sand began to move. From beneath the surface, giant shapes emerged, beasts unlike any Ryan had seen. Metallic skin, glowing eyes, wings like folded steel. They roared as they rose, shaking the ground. They're machine beasts, Vaughn whispered in awe. Leftovers from the old war. The newly awakened beasts looked at Ryan and bowed their heads, recognizing the whistle's call. Help us, Ryan said softly. The creatures roared in answer. The drones dove toward them, but the machine beasts leapt into the air, colliding with them mid-flight. Explosions lit up the sky as metal met metal. The battle was chaos, but Ryan didn't stop. He blew the whistle again, and more beasts answered from the desert, rising like shadows out of the dust. Vaughn turned to him, shouting over the noise. You're calling them all. You don't even know how many are still buried here. Ryan's eyes glowed faintly now, the same color as the whistle's light. I'm not calling them, he said. They're waking up on their own. The battle spread across the horizon. For every drone destroyed, more arrived. The Alliance wasn't giving up. Ryan could feel their signal closing in from every direction. Suddenly, his vision blurred. He saw flashes, images of the past. A man standing on a tower, holding the same whistle, surrounded by thousands of beasts. The man turned, and Ryan realized it was Eric Salas. His voice echoed in Ryan's head. The bond was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to unite. Ryan gasped and nearly fell. Vaughn grabbed him. Ryan. Stay with me. I saw him, Ryan said, his voice shaking. He's trying to tell me something. Vaughn looked at the whistle. Then listen. Ryan focused on the glowing object. The light inside it grew brighter, expanding until it burned through his hands. He didn't feel pain, only power. The beasts all froze mid-fight, turning their gaze toward him. The drones hesitated, their sensors flickering as if confused. Then Ryan spoke, his voice calm but strong. Stop. Everything did. The battlefield went silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The drones floated in the air, their weapons lowering. The machine beasts crouched, watching Ryan with glowing eyes. Vaughn looked around, disbelief on his face. What did you do? Ryan shook his head slowly. I didn't command them. I just asked. The silence lasted only a few seconds before a deep hum filled the air. The drone's eyes turned red again, brighter this time. Override protocol activated, a robotic voice said from above. A massive ship appeared through the clouds, its engines roaring. Vaughn's face paled. That's the command carrier. They're going to wipe the entire area. Ryan looked up, his heartbeat matching the whistle's pulse. Then we don't run, he said. We end this. He jumped from the Alpha's back, landing on the cracked ground. The whistle floated above his hand, glowing brighter than ever before. The beasts surrounded him, forming a protective circle. Vaughn yelled over the roaring wind, Ryan, You can't take that thing on alone. Ryan turned to him, his eyes filled with calm determination. I'm not alone. The ground began to tremble as energy surged through the land. From every direction, beasts of all kinds, flesh, metal, and hybrid, emerged, answering his silent call. Their roars merged into one unified sound that shook the skies. The massive carrier fired a beam of pure energy downward, but before it hit, Ryan lifted the whistle high. The light burst from it like a second sun, swallowing everything in white. For a brief moment, the world stood still. Then, silence. When the light faded, the ship was gone. The sky was clear. The beasts stood motionless, their eyes dim but peaceful. Vorn fell to his knees, staring at Ryan, who now stood at the center of a glowing crater. The whistle floated in front of him, its glow fading. Ryan, Vorn whispered. What did you do? Ryan looked at him, exhaustion in his eyes. I gave them peace. But even as he spoke, the ground began to pulse again. The light from the crater didn't fade, it spread, reaching far into the horizon. Something ancient had awakened. Ryan looked at the rising glow and whispered, It's not over yet. The light spreading from the crater grew brighter until it swallowed the sky, washing the land in waves of silver and gold. Vorn shielded his eyes as the ground vibrated beneath his feet. The beast stood perfectly still, as if waiting for something. Ryan stood at the center, motionless, the whistle floating before him like a glowing heart. Then, slowly, the light sank into the ground, leaving behind silence. Smoke rose from cracks in the earth, and a deep rumbling echoed below. What's happening? Vorn called out. Ryan's voice was soft but steady. Something's waking up. I can feel it. Before Vorn could reply, the ground split open with a thunderous crack, and a blast of air surged upward, throwing dust into the sky. Out of the fissure rose a massive structure, metallic, ancient, and covered in strange markings that pulsed with light. It looked like a buried fortress, long forgotten. By the stars, Vorn whispered. It's a vault. Ryan stepped closer, his eyes wide. A vault? Vorn nodded, his voice trembling. From the old era, built to contain things too dangerous to destroy. If it's waking up now, that means whatever was sealed inside is responding to the whistle's power. The beasts backed away, growling in low tones. The air felt heavy, charged with energy that made every breath feel electric. Ryan could hear faint whispers in his mind, voices overlapping like echoes from another time. They're calling to me, he said quietly. The ones who came before. Vorn grabbed his shoulder. Don't listen. These places were traps. They used to store psychic energy, sometimes it tries to pull you in. Ryan looked at the glowing vault door. I think it wants me to open it. Then it's even more reason not to, Vorn snapped. We barely survived the last fight. You open that, and we could wake something we can't stop. Ryan didn't answer. He walked forward, his steps slow but sure. The whistle floated beside him, glowing brighter with every movement. The vault's symbols reacted, lighting up one by one. When he reached the door, a deep hum filled the air, and a voice, not human but ancient, spoke from everywhere at once. Beastmaster recognized. Access granted. The ground trembled, and the massive door began to open. Vorn cursed and ran forward, but it was too late. A wave of cold air swept out as the vault yawned open, revealing a cavern of silver light. Inside were rows of massive pods, each one containing a creature larger than anything Ryan had ever seen. Their bodies were part flesh, part machine, and they pulsed with faint life. They're sleeping, Ryan whispered. No, Vorn said grimly. They're waiting. As they stepped deeper inside, strange symbols flickered across the walls. Ryan felt a pull in his chest, guiding him to the center where a pedestal stood. Resting on it was a second whistle, larger, darker, and covered in runes that glowed with red energy. Ryan reached for it, but Vorn grabbed his arm. Don't. That's not the same as yours. That's the war whistle, the one Eric Salas sealed away. It was too powerful to control. Ryan stared at it. It's calling to me. That's exactly how it traps you, Vaughn warned. You use that thing, and it won't be you commanding the beasts, they'll command you. Ryan hesitated. His own whistle glowed faintly in response, as if warning him too. He took a step back, but the ground shook again. The pods around them began to crack open, releasing streams of light. The sleeping beasts stirred, their eyes snapping open, glowing red. We have to get out. Vaughn shouted. Ryan ran, but the creatures began emerging, massive, mechanical monsters with wings like blades and bodies covered in armored scales. They roared, the sound deafening, echoing through the cavern. Ryan raised his whistle and blew hard. The sound rippled through the air, and the red light in the beast's eyes flickered, but it didn't stop them. It's not working. Ryan shouted. They're linked to the war whistle, Vaughn said. They only obey that one. One of the massive beasts lunged forward, knocking over the ancient walls. Ryan barely dodged, rolling across the ground. He reached for the pedestal again, desperation in his eyes. If they obey it, maybe I can control it. No! Vaughn yelled. You don't know what it will do to you. But the creatures were closing in. Ryan grabbed the war whistle. The moment his fingers touched it, pain shot through his body like lightning. His vision went white, and he heard thousands of voices screaming in his head. The whistle pulsed red, and a dark energy swirled around him. The beasts froze, their movements halting mid-attack. Then they all knelt, their heads bowed toward Ryan. Vaughn stared in disbelief. You stopped them. Ryan stood still, breathing heavily. His eyes glowed faintly red now, and his voice was distant. They're not angry. They were trapped for centuries. They only wanted to be free. Vaughn stepped closer, concern in his eyes. Ryan, put it down. The whistle is changing you. Ryan turned to him slowly. I can feel them all, Vaughn. Every heartbeat, every thought. They're not machines, they're alive. The ground rumbled again, and deep within the vault, another presence stirred, a shadow moving behind the light. The voice returned, stronger this time. You have awakened the war core. The balance will break. Vaughn drew his blaster, looking around in panic. What's the war core? Ryan's gaze turned toward the darkness ahead. The heart of the bond, he whispered. The power that created the first beast masters. The shadow grew larger, taking the shape of a colossal beast made of light and metal, its eyes burning like suns. The war never ended, the voice said. It only slept. The creature stepped forward, its steps shaking the ground. The vault walls began to collapse. Ryan gripped the two whistles, one glowing white, one red, and felt their energy clash within him. If this thing wakes fully, it'll destroy everything, Vaughn shouted. Ryan nodded, his voice steady. Then I'll stop it. No matter what it costs. He lifted both whistles, light and darkness swirling around him. The war core roared, shaking the heavens as Ryan faced it alone, the fate of the bond hanging in the balance. The war core loomed over Ryan and Vaughn like a mountain of light and shadow. Its body shifted between metal and smoke, its wings spreading wide enough to blot out the glowing vault ceiling. Every step it took made the ground quake, sending cracks running through the metal floor. Ryan could feel its presence pressing down on him, not just with sound or sight, but inside his mind. Its voice was deep, layered, like hundreds of beings speaking in unison. You carry the bond in the war, it said. But you are not complete. Ryan stood his ground, the white and red whistles glowing in each of his hands. If you are the power that started this, then tell me, why did you create us? The war core's eyes burned brighter. To bring unity through control. The Beastmasters were my vessels. But they failed. They grew soft. They sought peace when they were meant to rule. The air trembled, and sparks fell like rain. Vaughn raised his weapon, but Ryan gestured for him to stop. You used them, Ryan said. You made them think they were saving the world when you just wanted to own it. The war core let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh, more like the echo of thunder. And yet, here you are, holding my creation in your hands. You call the beasts. You bend them to your will. You are no different from me. Ryan's jaw tightened. You're wrong. I didn't command them, they chose to stand with me. The war core tilted its massive head. Then show me, little beast master. Show me your choice. Without warning, it opened its chest, revealing a blinding light. A wave of energy exploded outward, slamming Ryan into the wall. The whistles flew from his hands, spinning across the floor. Vorn fired his blaster, but the bolts vanished before hitting the creature. Run! Ryan shouted. Vorn hesitated, then dove behind a pillar as another pulse of energy blasted through the chamber. Ryan pushed himself up, his vision blurring. He reached for the white whistle, but before he could grab it, the war core's shadow spread across the floor and formed into smaller creatures, dark, twisted versions of the beasts he had bonded with. Their eyes glowed red, their bodies covered in smoke and metal. They charged at him with terrifying speed. Ryan grabbed the whistle and blew it with all his strength. The sound rippled through the chamber like a shockwave. The shadow beasts froze, their movements slowing, but they didn't stop. He could feel the whistle fighting against something stronger, something inside the war core itself. It's controlling them, Ryan muttered. It's connected to all of them. He looked up as one of the beasts lunged, its claws inches away. Suddenly, a blur of motion struck it from the side, the alpha. The great beast roared, slamming the shadow creature into the wall. The others followed, the real beasts joining the fight against their dark reflections. The vault became chaos, light and shadow colliding, screams and roars echoing through the air. Ryan turned to Vorn. You have to shut down the vault systems. The core is drawing energy from here. Vorn nodded and sprinted toward the control panel at the far end of the room, dodging debris and falling shards of metal. Ryan faced the war core again. This ends now. He raised the white whistle to his lips again, but the war core struck first, firing a beam of energy that shattered the ground around him. Ryan barely rolled aside. The heat burned through his clothes, and the sound was deafening. His hand brushed against the red whistle, the war whistle, and for a moment, he hesitated. He remembered Vorn's warning. But the beasts were struggling, and the core was too powerful. If I don't use it, they'll die, he whispered. He grabbed the red whistle and blew. The sound was different, harsh, violent, full of rage. The red light exploded outward, hitting the war core directly. The shadow beast screamed and vanished. The war core staggered back, roaring in pain, its wings flaring wide. Ryan felt power surge through him, burning like fire in his veins. The beast stopped fighting, staring at him with wide eyes. Vorn shouted from across the room, Ryan. Stop. It's taking over you. But Ryan could barely hear him. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the red whistle's pulse. His eyes glowed crimson, and when he spoke, his voice echoed with two tones, his own and something ancient. You wanted control, he said to the war core. Now feel what it means to lose it. The war core screamed, and for the first time, it looked afraid. Its massive claws swung toward Ryan, but Ryan caught the blow with one hand. Energy crackled around him, the red light merging with the white. He could feel both forces inside him, order and chaos, bond and control, fighting for dominance. You can't hold both, the war core growled. They will consume you. Ryan clenched his fists, light bursting from his skin. Then I'll make something new. He slammed both whistles together. The sound that followed was not a whistle, not a roar, it was something beyond sound. The vault shook violently. The pods shattered. The beasts howled. The war core's body split down the center, light pouring out like liquid fire. Vorn threw himself behind a fallen pillar, shielding his face as the chamber exploded in brilliance. When the light finally faded, the war core was gone. The vault was silent. Ryan stood in the center, surrounded by ashes of light, the two whistles melted into one, half white, half red. He looked at it, breathing heavily. The beasts slowly approached, their eyes calm again, their bodies scarred but alive. Vorn limped toward him. You did it, he said. Ryan shook his head. No. It's not over. I didn't destroy it. I absorbed it. Vorn's face hardened. That thing is inside you now? Ryan nodded slowly. It's quiet for now, but it's not gone. It's waiting. The ground trembled again, softly this time, like a heartbeat. From the cracks in the vault, golden light began to leak upward, spreading toward the surface. What's happening now? Vorn asked, fear creeping into his voice. Ryan looked toward the light, his eyes still glowing faintly red and white. The balance is changing, he said quietly. The world is waking up. Outside, far above the vault, the sky rippled as if something enormous stirred beneath the planet's surface. Across the lands, beasts lifted their heads, sensing the new energy in the air. Something ancient had shifted, and the story of the beast bond was far from finished. The golden light continued to pour from the cracks in the earth as Ryan and Vorn climbed out of the shattered vault. The sky above them had changed color. It was no longer blue or gray, but a shimmering blend of gold and red, moving like liquid fire across the heavens. The air was alive with energy. Every breath they took hummed with power, and even the ground beneath their feet pulsed softly, like a living heartbeat. The beasts gathered around them, silent but alert, their eyes glowing faintly with the same colors that now shimmered in Ryan's. The alpha stepped forward and lowered its head, as if bowing. Ryan placed a hand on its snout and felt warmth spread through his arm. It's like the world is breathing again, he said quietly. Vorn looked around, unease etched into his face. Or it's like something much bigger is waking up. The horizon trembled as waves of golden light spread outward, turning the once barren wasteland into something strange and new. Trees of crystal sprouted from the sand, their branches humming with sound. Rivers of light flowed through the cracks in the ground, creating glowing streams that pulsed with energy. This isn't natural, Vorn muttered. The War Core's energy is rewriting the land itself. Ryan nodded. It's not destroying, it's changing. Rebuilding. He turned the new whistle over in his hand. It was no longer two colors, now it shimmered between red and white, shifting with every movement. He could feel both forces inside it, bond and control, creation and destruction, perfectly balanced for the moment. It's alive, he whispered. Before Vorn could reply, the wind shifted. A low hum echoed from the distance, followed by the deep rumble of engines. Ryan looked up to see shapes appearing in the sky, ships. Dozens of them, descending from the clouds. The Alliance, Vorn said grimly. They tracked the explosion. The beasts growled, forming a circle around Ryan and Vorn. The ship spread across the sky, and beams of light scanned the ground below. We don't have the strength for another fight, Vorn warned. They'll see us as a threat. Ryan's gaze hardened. Maybe they should. Vorn shook his head. You don't understand. They'll call in the full fleet this time. They'll wipe everything out, beasts, humans, all of it, just to stop what they don't understand. Ryan looked at the whistle again. Then maybe it's time they learned. He lifted it slowly, but Vorn grabbed his arm. No, Ryan. The balance in you, it's still unstable. If you push it too far, you'll lose yourself. Ryan hesitated. He could feel the power inside him shifting, swirling like a storm. But he also felt the presence of the beasts, their trust, their calm. He closed his eyes and took a breath. I'm not doing this alone anymore. He raised the whistle and blew. The sound that came out was unlike anything before. It was gentle, almost human, but it spread through the air like ripples on water. The beasts lifted their heads, the light in their eyes growing stronger. The sound traveled far, reaching the incoming ships. For a moment, the engine stuttered, and the ships slowed mid-flight. On the flagship above, a commander watched his monitors flicker. What's going on? He barked. A technician's voice trembled. Sir, the beasts below are emitting synchronized energy waves. It's interfering with our systems. Interfering? The commander snapped. Or calling something. On the ground, Ryan felt a shift in the air. From beyond the glowing plains, new shapes appeared, more beasts. Hundreds of them. Some with scales like mirrors, others with skin like stone or wings of light. They moved together, forming lines that stretched to the horizon. The Alliance fleet hovered above, their cannons charging. They're going to fire, Vorn warned. Ryan's voice was calm. Not if they see what I see. He blew the whistle again, softer this time. The beasts didn't roar or attack. Instead, they knelt, their massive forms lowering to the ground in perfect unity. The earth glowed brighter, the rivers of light connecting them all. For a moment, it looked like the entire land had become a single living organism. Vorn stared in awe. They're bonded, to you, to each other, to everything. The ships above hesitated. The commander looked out his window, seeing the sight unfold, a world alive, glowing, united in silence. Sir, the technician said quietly, they're not attacking. The commander frowned. Then what are they doing? They're waiting, the technician whispered. On the ground, Ryan lowered the whistle and looked at the sky. This is what it was meant to be, he said. Not control. Connection. The whistle glowed brighter, and the light spread outward again, rising high into the air. It reached the ships, enveloping them in soft gold. The machine stopped humming, the engines silent. For a moment, everything, beasts, humans, sky, and earth, was completely still. Then Ryan heard it, a voice, faint but familiar. Eric Salas. You found the balance I couldn't. The bond lives through you now. But remember, peace is never permanent. It must be protected. The voice faded, leaving only the hum of the whistle. Ryan looked at Vorn, who was still staring at the glowing horizon. What did he mean? Vorn asked. Ryan didn't answer. His eyes were distant, focused on something only he could feel. Something's coming, he finally said. Something beyond all of this. The golden light began to shift again, darkening at the edges. The rivers of light turned deeper, almost crimson. The ground pulsed faster, like a heartbeat under strain. It's unstable, Vorn said quickly. The balance, something's breaking. Ryan gripped the whistle tightly. The war core's energy is still spreading. It's not done changing the world. He looked up as thunder rolled across the golden sky. Clouds of light twisted, forming a massive vortex overhead. Within it, shapes began to form, shadows, huge and distant. That's not the Alliance, Vorn said. That's something else. Ryan nodded slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. It's the other half of the bond, the part that was sealed away for centuries. The part even Eric Salas couldn't face. Lightning struck the ground, sending waves of energy through the beasts. They roared in unison, their voices echoing into the sky. Ryan looked at the swirling vortex and felt the whistle burn in his hand. The world is waking up, he said, his voice filled with awe and fear. But not all dreams are peaceful. The sky churned with violent energy as the vortex widened, swallowing the last traces of sunlight. Ryan stood at the center of the glowing plain, gripping the whistle so tightly his knuckles turned white. The beasts around him growled uneasily, their eyes darting toward the swirling sky. The golden light that had once felt warm and pure now flickered with shades of red and black, twisting like smoke. Vorn took a step closer to Ryan, his face pale. This isn't balance anymore, he said. Something's breaking free. Ryan's heart pounded. He could feel it too, a dark pulse, deep beneath the surface of the world, ancient and angry. It was as if the planet itself was waking up, remembering something it had buried long ago. The ground shook violently, and cracks spread like veins of fire. From the largest fissure, a sound emerged, a deep, rumbling growl that didn't belong to any creature they had ever seen. The beasts backed away, tails low and ears flat. Ryan and Vorn turned toward the fissure as something began to rise from it. At first, it looked like molten stone, but as it climbed higher, it took shape, a creature larger than any of the bonded beasts, its body covered in dark armor-like scales that shimmered faintly with gold. Its eyes opened, glowing crimson. The air around it burned. Vorn drew his weapon instinctively. "That's not part of your bond, is it?" he asked. Ryan shook his head. "No. That's something older." The creature's gaze locked on Ryan, and for a moment, everything went silent. Then it spoke, not with sound, but directly into his mind. "You carry the bond of life," the voice thundered inside his skull, "but you forget the balance of death." Ryan staggered back, clutching his head. The whistle pulsed violently in his hand, as if it was responding to the voice. "Who are you?" Ryan demanded. The creature lowered its massive head, eyes burning brighter. "I am what came before the bond. I am the keeper of the end." The ground around it cracked again, and waves of heat spread outward. The other beasts roared in defiance, forming a circle around Ryan, ready to fight. But the keeper only laughed, a low, rumbling sound that shook the air. "You cannot fight balance with power. To live, something must die." Ryan lifted the whistle, his mind racing. "You're wrong," he said through gritted teeth. "The bond connects all life. It doesn't destroy, it unites." The keeper's eyes narrowed. "Then prove it." In an instant, it lunged forward, moving faster than anything its size should. The ground erupted where it landed, sending shockwaves through the plain. Ryan and Vorn were thrown off their feet. The beasts attacked together, leaping at the creature with claws and fangs, but their strikes barely left scratches. The keeper swung one massive arm, sending 3 beasts crashing to the ground. Ryan scrambled up, the whistle blowing in his hand. He blew it, and a piercing sound cut through the chaos. The beasts froze mid-attack, then moved again, this time in perfect unison, their movements fluid like one single mind. They surrounded the keeper, striking with speed and precision. For a moment, it seemed to work. The creature roared, stumbling backward under the coordinated assault. But then its chest cracked open, and from within, black smoke poured out, spreading like a storm. The beasts howled as the darkness wrapped around them, freezing them in place. Ryan gasped as pain shot through his arm. The whistle was burning his skin. Vorn pulled him back. "It's feeding off your connection," he shouted. "You have to stop." "If I stop," Ryan said, his voice trembling, "we all die." He closed his eyes and focused, trying to steady his breathing. Inside his mind, he reached out, not just to the beasts, but to the light that had once filled the world. He remembered the words of Eric Salas, "Peace must be protected." The whistle pulsed again, but this time it didn't burn. Instead, the light within it began to change, no longer red or gold, but white. The sound that came next was softer, almost like a heartbeat. The beast stopped struggling. The smoke began to slow. The keeper paused, its eyes flickering uncertainly. Ryan stepped forward, holding the whistle in front of him. "You're part of this world too," he said quietly. "You were never meant to end it. You were meant to remind it why it exists." The keeper growled, the sound weaker now. "Balance cannot exist without death." "Then let it exist without hate," Ryan said. The whistle glowed brighter, and the ground beneath them shone with the same white light. The cracks began to close, the rivers of energy shifting back to gold. The beasts rose to their feet, their bodies glowing faintly as the bond grew stronger. The keeper roared one last time, but instead of attacking, it began to dissolve into light, its massive body breaking apart into golden particles. The balance, restored, its voice echoed as it faded away. When it was gone, the plain was silent again. The sky cleared slowly, revealing stars that hadn't been seen in centuries. Ryan lowered the whistle, breathing heavily. Vorn walked up beside him, staring at the sky. "You did it," he said softly. "You actually brought balance." Ryan shook his head. "No. We all did." The beasts gathered around them, calm now, their eyes peaceful. The whistle no longer glowed, it was just a small, simple object again. "So what happens now?" Vorn asked. Ryan looked at the horizon, where the first light of dawn was breaking. "Now," he said, "we rebuild. Not as soldiers or beasts, but as one." He turned to the Alpha, who lowered its massive head beside him. Ryan placed his hand on its snout. "The bond isn't a weapon," he whispered. "It's a promise." As the sun rose, the land around them shimmered with golden light, alive once more. The age of war was over, and the age of balance had begun. But deep beneath the ground, in the silence of the old vaults, a faint whisper stirred, the sound of something ancient still waiting. The story of the bond was not over. It had only just begun.